Friends, I want to share with you that I've been working with the leadership from Laingsburg Methodist Church in order to develop what we are calling the church's reopening plan. We have, in fact, formulated our plan with the help of the Michigan Conference of the United Methodist Church, as well as a number of other resources. Today, I'm sharing this plan with you both in this video and with a bit of a Cliff Notes summary of the entire plan. You can find these documents on our website, laingsburgumc.org, and I hope that you'll take time to look through the summary at some point so you can understand it even more. Essentially, the church reopening plan is a roadmap of sorts for how we will safely resume the in-person ministries and office functions of the church. Like any roadmap, of course, there will be times when detours will be required. And we may even find ourselves going at the speed of a traffic jam in rush hour, while at other times we may end up going full speed ahead. A lot of it depends on the nature of the coronavirus, the ability of the public to keep the curve flattened as we've been doing, and of course the recommendations of public health professionals. Ultimately, our goal is not to reopen quickly. Our goal is to reopen safely. Now, before I share with you the various parts of the church reopening plan, I want to let you know about a realization that we've come to, and that is that we have to recommend that all of those who fall in the category of at higher risk due to age or existing health matters should remain sheltered in place for the duration of the pandemic. We fully understand that this is disappointing, and so please know that the church leadership is actively and creatively exploring ways in which we can do greater ministry with and for one another, even from home. While this may take time, we hope that you understand that our commitment is to everyone's health, even your own. Finally, with regard to those at increased risk, we want to make sure that you understand that this is only our recommendation and not a requirement. We simply want to make sure that everyone understands the risks involved with increased exposure. To explain the church reopening plan, it's easiest to break down it into 4 pieces. The Safer at Home stage, Phase 1, Phase 2, and next phases. Safer at Home is what we are currently doing, and we'll continue to do so until Governor Whitmer lifts the stay-at-home order and we are further advised by the Michigan Conference of the United Methodist Church to move to Phase 1. During the Safer at Home stage, we will continue with online worship on Sundays using our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. You may have already noticed that each worship service is recorded from the homes of those who are contributing, from readings, music, and more, as well as from the parsonage where I'm preaching my sermons. We're doing this because the church building will remain closed, even for staff, until that stay-at-home order is lifted. Presently, that is set for May 28th, but it's important to keep in mind that that date may change. As you might have guessed, the church office will also remain closed with staff working from home as they are able. I am doing the same, including pastoral care. All small groups, committees, Bible studies, and more will meet online. If your group isn't already doing that, I want to encourage you to get creative about how to begin doing so. The church does have some online tools that can be used to make this possible. And so please be in touch with me to learn more about how those tools can be used by your small group. Finally, I want to share with you that throughout this entire plan, the Laingsburg Area Food Bank will be continuing to provide service through curbside food delivery. They are operating their regular hours as normal. Once the governor's stay-at-home order is lifted, we'll move to Phase 1. In Phase 1, the only real changes from the Safer at Home stages have to do with worship and office functions. While worship will still only be provided online, it will be recorded or live streamed from the sanctuary. We still don't have the congregation gathered in person, but I suspect that you're just as excited as I am to see the sanctuary during worship again. And so we'll be able to do that virtually during Phase 1. During this time, we'll also have staff back in the office for limited hours in order that essential operations for the office can continue more effectively. That being said, the church building will remain closed to non-staff during Phase 1. Other than that, all the other ministries will resume in a virtual or online manner. From phase 1, we'll only move to phase 2 once the governor's office and the Michigan Conference of the United Methodist Church allow for in-person gatherings of 50 people or fewer. Now, as I share this, I want to be sure to share 2 important points. One is that we arrived at that limit of 50 people based on the social distance capacity of the sanctuary. Again, this number is an approximation and may change as recommendations for health officials change. Secondly, it is helpful to set expectations as to when this may happen. It will likely not happen very quickly. While we all want to be able to worship in person again, we simply will not rush this process. The health and lives of the community and the congregation, that's you, it is simply too precious to reopen for in-person worship too soon. Once the time comes that we can regather for in-person worship, phase 2 will put in place a number of practices and that make the physical adjustments in order to make sure that we're creating a safe place for all. For those who are unable to attend in-person worship due to higher health risks or for personal choice, we'll continue to live stream the in-person worships so that it can be viewed from home. Some of these practices and adjustments will include a physical rearrangement of the pews in the sanctuary in order to help families and individuals sit socially distanced from one another. You can imagine how that may look with pews broken apart so that they can be placed in different places, certainly with less seating. A general rule that we'll be following is this: if you live together, you may sit together. Everyone who's in attendance will be required to wear a mask that covers both their nose and their mouth. We will have masks available for you if you don't have your own already, but we're encouraging you to get your own so that you can use it outside of the church as well. Certain practices in worship will be temporarily suspended due to their increased risk of virus transmission. Some of those things are we won't be singing hymns or other music during that time. We'll also create no-touch alternatives for greeting one another, collecting of the offering, and of course keeping attendance. We know that giving hugs and handshakes is something that you are wanting to do. And unfortunately, even during phase 2, it's simply not safe to do so yet, even with masks on. During phase 2, we'll also refrain from having fellowship time before and after the service. The rear ramp door to the church building will be opened about 10 minutes before the service begins and closed 10 minutes after the service concludes. Again, we know that mingling with others is so tempting, especially after we've not been able to do it for so long. What we're doing is trying to simply limit the temptation, again, to keep everyone healthy and safe. There's no getting around the awkwardness of it, so we just need to acknowledge it and trust that we're doing the right thing to keep our neighbors safe. When you do come to worship on Sunday mornings, when we're finally able to, there will be ushers present to walk you through the new processes, including using hand sanitizer. Learning new processes for doing familiar things can take time, and so we'll be learning together. Obviously, there are some other precautions that we'll be taking to make sure in-person worship during phase 2 is as safe as possible. And some of those precautions we will only discover by practice, so we'll make sure to keep everyone updated as new practices come to light. While this may sound like the making for a rather pared down and impersonal worship service, our aim is not to simply pare down our current service, but instead to explore alternative ways of worshiping that will help to create a meaningful and spirit-filled time of worship. We invite you to be creative and flexible with us. During phase 2, we're going to be continuing a number of practices from phase 1, including holding remote small groups and committee gatherings, refraining from rentals of the building, and keeping children and youth programs virtual rather than in person. Thankfully, we will be able to open the church office for its regular hours during phase 2. Keep in mind that should you come by the office, you'll be asked to join us in wearing a mask and keeping at least 6 feet of distance between you and others. But don't worry, we'll make sure there's plenty of signs around the church there to remind you of how you can keep yourself and others safe. We know that all of this sounds like a lot, And in some ways, it really is a lot. We're in the midst of unprecedented times, at least for our lifetimes. And so we're discovering new ways of being the church and being safe in a new day. While I doubt we'll be wearing masks forever, we will for a period of time. And I want to encourage you to do so even when not at church. When two people are wearing masks, there is ample evidence to show that the two wearing the masks drastically lowers the risk of virus transmission. Unfortunately, if only one of the two is wearing a mask, the risk of transmission and illness increases significantly for both. If no one is wearing a mask, well, you can figure that one out. There is no one who is relishing this time of social distancing, the economic struggle, and certainly the health concerns. My prayer is that together we will join the millions who are coming together with a common goal of caring for one another, abiding by the safety protocols put in place, and working toward a better and safer tomorrow. In the early Christian church, the well-understood mandate was to lay aside one's personal comfort and needs in order to care for not just others, but especially those who were at greater risk to the challenges of everyday life. And so let us hear that same mandate today as we are actively caring for those among us and around us. Friends, thank you for taking time to watch this video, taking time to read through the summary of the plan and maybe the plan itself, and for working together with us to make sure tomorrow is both safer and healthy. Take care.